it's Phil Stacy, Executive Sports Center at the Salem News, and we are here for another edition of our sports podcast, Bandied About. As always, I'm joined by my two compatriots, Assistant Sports Center Matt Williams and Gloucester Times Sports Center Nick Giannino. Gentlemen, how are you?
Good.
All
How we
right,
doing?
good. We're going to take a quick gander around the area just to talk about the beginning of the spring sports season. We're about 2.5 weeks in. Everybody's played at least a couple games by this point. Willie, just right off the bat, anything surprising you so far from what we've seen locally?
Um, I don't know about surprise. I mean, I think kind of status is quo. I think we have a lot of, at least on the baseball scene, we have a lot of, decent teams. I don't think I see any great teams. I don't see any bad teams either. At least in the Northeastern Conference side of things. I mean, I think Gloucester has the potential to be a great team. I think they're out ahead of the pack right now. I think the rest of the conference is kind of, sifting through some things. I think they're all good, but not great and not bad, right? So I think that's kind of what we've seen. A little bit of inconsistency, a win, a loss, a win, a loss. I think outside the area, the Hamilton Wenham is a team that has kind of shot out ahead in the Cape Ann League that might be potentially a state title contender. It looks like a tremendous, great potential team. I mean, Cormac Heaney is just striking out everybody, and they got a lot of big bats in that lineup. I mean, they got barely anybody lost from last year. I think, Coach Reggie Maidman told me only two guys up from JV from last year, and that's the fewest guys he's ever called up, just based on the number of spots that were available, right? Not an indictment of the JV talent, just, wow, there's so many guys back here. So that's a team that I think is, really ahead of the pack. Not a lot of surprises, though. I would say St. John's Prep, their start at 1-3, I think, is a little bit surprising. They stumbled out of the gates last year, and I think there was some emphasis there to kind of make sure that didn't happen again. And here they are again. And I think there's got to be a little bit of mirror looking going on over there. I mean, it reminds me of the Red Sox a little bit, where basically every year since 2018, no matter what Alex Cora says, the Red Sox have been kind of crappy in April, right? And the Prep certainly doesn't have that long of a track record there, but you know, 2 years in a row now, kind of stumbling out of the gates is not where you want to be if you're St. John's. So they definitely have to figure out some things because the schedule certainly doesn't get easier. I mean, I know they've played three of those four games have been Catholic Conference games, but still, I mean, and the size of some of the scores. I mean, they've given up 7, 8, 9 runs in some of these games, which is not what you expect when you're St. John's and you have a stable of pitching that's supposed to be as big as the state of Wyoming or whatever. I mean, so
Yeah,
that
yeah.
that's a little bit surprising. So I think there's people around the North Shore kind of looking at that saying, hey, what's going on there? But other than that, I think everything's kind of been about as expected, on at least on the baseball end of things.
Nick, tell me what's happening down at Cape Ann.
Yeah, well, Willie mentioned Gloucester baseball off to a great start, 4-0 for them. And I think they got the pitching this year, right? Braden Francis and Giacomo Martel return as two seniors at the front end of their rotation, and they've just been lights out. Francis no-hit Haverhill earlier this year. Martel, I think, is up to 20 strikeouts in two games. And Nico Alves, a sophomore, I was talking to head coach Rory Gentile, and he's a third option in the rotation, but he's really just another number one option. I mean, he threw a gem against Danvers. He's going to be called upon as well for some big innings, and I think he had 12 strikeouts against Danvers, just 5 hits, scattered those, and 1 run. So they've only allowed 2 earned runs, I believe, in 4 games. Looking really good. The offense is coming along. I would say that the pitching has definitely been their dominant asset right now, but the hitting is coming along. They got some good bats. Jalen Severino's off to a good start. All those guys that pitch are good hitters. They haven't made a lot of errors in the field. So obviously their schedule's going to get tougher as they dive into the Northeastern Conference. I think they get Swampscott later this week, Wednesday, and they got a big one against Beverly next Monday. So we'll see how things shake out as these pitchers get their second and third starts here to open the season. But to have that kind of success, especially with the cold weather. I know it's starting to get a little warmer, but these kids have been pitching in on some cold days, some windy days, and really shining. So yeah, I think Gloucester's got some pieces to have a really good team this year.
If we switch to softball quickly, guys, maybe a little less parity. It seems like we do have some really good teams in the area. Willie, if you want to touch upon that.
Yeah, I think we do have some good teams, but I would call it parity because I think you know, without a bona fide, superstar pitcher out there, I think, at least among the done teams, right? There's going to be some high scoring games. There's going to be some offense, some trick plays, some slap hitting, things like that. I mean, we've seen, the Danvers Peabody game, I think was 9-6 for Danvers, and the Beverly Danvers game was what, 8-7 in 8 innings or 9 innings or something like
Yeah.
this. And, Bishop Fenwick is another team that's had, a great lineup and maybe piecing things together, at least at the start pitching wise. They had a 7-6 game. So I think we've seen some higher scores than we've had because the lineups are ahead of the pitching right now. And even Marblehead,
I was going
I
to say,
mean,
does that give Marblehead an edge with Tessa Francis being a bona fide ace pitcher, has already thrown a perfect game this season?
I think she's got to prove it, to be honest with you, because she did not have success against the Dunn teams last year, despite her success in the state tournament. And even when they beat Peabody the other day, it was a 6-4 game, fair number of hits, fair number of walks. So I think Marblehead's going to have to grind it out against Danvers and Beverly in some of these crossover games. And I think that's really good for them, to be honest with you. I don't think that's a bad thing.
Oh, which sets up an
Because
interesting game Wednesday. Marblehead and Beverly, I believe they're both still undefeated early on.
I think that's right. I think that's right. And yeah, Beverly's a team that, I mean, it's like you almost think like if you could mix and match, right? Kind of take Beverly's lineup and Marblehead's pitching and you'd have like a perfect team type of thing. So it's sort of like a strength on strength situation. It's really fascinating. Beverly's a team that just wears out good pitching 1 through 9. You got to be on and just some of it depends on the umpire, right? If you're getting squeezed, you're walking too many people. These hitters are so good that, if you have to put it in a mailbox slot, it's going to get hit. That can be very challenging, but I think Marblehead, is much more than just Tessa too. I mean, we should mention
Sure,
too, Tessa.
Bornhorst obviously can play.
Tessa's got 2 home runs already this year, if not 3. So she's doing the work at the bat too, not just in the circle.
Mm.
So I would say, far and away the MVP candidate in the early going. But my point is, it's not going to be easy to just throw up zeros against the Peabodys, the Beverleys, the Danverses. Those are going to be good, tight, challenging games. And again, I think long term, that's really going to help Marblehead. Phenomenal defensive team, like you mentioned, with Luca Bornhurst behind the plate. Their center field is excellent. Their shortstop, Haley Schmidt, is excellent. They run the bases very well. And if you remember, this is how they won their state tournament games last year with bunts, with taking the extra base, going first to third, making great defensive plays. I mean, all those games they won on the way to the Final Four were run games, some of them high scoring run games. So this is a battle tested Marblehead team that, can play all 3 phases of the game, right? It's not just kind of like some of these teams you've seen over the years where, the pitcher's pitching and everybody else is kind of standing around watching. That's not the case for Marblehead. They're a great team, all over the diamond. And so I agree with you. I think all those crossover games could potentially be sights to see. Really, really interesting.
Nick, of your three softball teams down on Cape Ann, who looks to be the best of those three?
Well, Gloucester's 6-0, so they're off to a really good start. A little bit of a lighter schedule, I would say, so far, but they did beat St. Mary's of Lynn, who they've had some battles with in the past. That's always a good program. They did beat Danvers 4-1. They're coming off a big win over Saugus and a big win over Winthrop, who are probably two of the weaker teams in the conference. But head coach Brian Aiello did say that Saugus had some good bats and gave him a run there. It was a close game for a lot of that game. So, there could be some more parity than we actually think. But yeah, Gloucester's off to a great start. thing with them is they're throwing some freshman arms. Their top pitcher is a freshman, Abby Noble. She's been good, but I don't know if that experience is going to come into play. The last year they had Cameron Carroll, who was one of the harder throwing girls in the conference, and she graduated. So they got three freshmen that are going to take over the rotation, along with Janelle Brancleone and Angela Russo, who had a nice day against Winthrop yesterday. So 6-0 for them. Similar to the boys team, they're going to get into the meat of their schedule. They got Swampscott coming up tomorrow. They got Georgetown, who's a good team, and then they got Peabody, Bedford, St. Mary's again. So their schedule is definitely going to get tougher, but 6-0 to start is 6-0 to start. They're putting up some runs, and they've only allowed, let's see, two, three, four, five, 6 runs in 6 games. So it's pretty good for a starting freshman pitching core. I think Rockport, is battling. They're a younger team as well. And Manchester Essex, same deal. They haven't been able to find much success yet, but both of those teams are kind of rebuilding, and we'll see how things shake out as the season continues to roll on. McClosh is definitely ahead of those two for now.
Let me stick with you, Nick, and just ask about Manchester Essex boys lacrosse. They're off to a great start under their new coach, Wes Chittick, who obviously was the former head coach at Danvers and then took a year or two off before taking the coaching reins for the Hornets. They're what, 3-0?
Yeah, yeah, Wes has been doing a great job. I was just talking to Cami Molinaire, the athletic director of Manchester, the other day, and they're really excited about the team they got in Manchester. They had a nice season last year. I think got getting to the quarterfinals, state quarterfinals, I believe. And like you said, they're off to a great start. They got good balance. They got some athletes on that team. They're coming off a big win over Hamilton Wenham. Charlie Thurlow's scoring. Jack McCavanagh, who played on the basketball team, smaller guy, but definitely a strong lacrosse player, strong attack man. He's been doing a lot of scoring. They got Connor Dixon in
Yep.
between the posts. He's been pretty good in net for him. So pretty balanced, and then some football guys. Noah Cohen is a sophomore that had a great football season. He's another athlete scoring goals. Walker and Turner Vallejo, the brothers there. So they got depth. They got some experience, and obviously Wes bringing in Wes Chittick from Danvers. He had some success with the Falcons and definitely knows his stuff and seems to be a good fit there so far. The kids are buying in. So yeah, Manchester's looking pretty good. I got to look up
I think they're
their
3-0.
record now, but I don't think they've lost.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
no,
don't know if
3
it's
3
3-0
0, I
or
believe.
4-0.
And speaking of Manchester, we just want to congratulate Bridget Caravallano for winning the Salem News Student Athlete of the Year trophy. What do we say? First Manchester winner, and was it 41 years, 42 years?
42 years. Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
remarkable. So great job for the.
Awesome stuff. And she's picking up right where she left off on the lacrosse field, making some great saves. They've had some tough losses.
Yeah.
Manchester has late, excellent program over there, but they're young this year and had
Yeah, I
some
think they
real
got
good
doubled up by Ipswich, which obviously is a state powerhouse at Division 4.
Yeah, they hung with Ipswich a little and then got blown out even more so by Hamilton Wenham, which was a bit of a surprise. But I'll tell you, that girl for Hamilton Wenham, Evie Bernard, is just, world class. She's going Division 1, I believe, right? UPenn, I think.
I think that's right. Yes.
But she's going to lead the conference in scoring again, despite getting face guarded every game and double teamed. So yeah, Hamilton's going to be tough to beat, and then Ipswich, like you mentioned, and yeah, Manchester boys 3-0. Nice win over Swampscott, nice win over Ipswich, and then the big win over Hamilton. They got Linfield today, a couple hours after we log off from this podcast.
Willie, I'll touch on the boys lacrosse, but anything girls lacrosse wise in our area that you want to touch upon?
I think PUD is really good. I think Beverly is kind of rebuilding a little bit, which is interesting because they don't play Peabody until May. So
Yeah.
twice. They played kind of twice for whatever reason. The first game got moved, which I think
And hey,
that's
speaking
kind
of
of
Peabody, I mean, how about Brooke Lamazny, 400 career points? That's crazy.
not bad. Not bad. I mean, she now has more goals than the previous career record holder had points.
Wow.
So you can wipe out the assists, and she still would have the school scoring record, which is
And I
pretty
think,
remarkable.
all time in this area, the boys scoring record is only, I don't say only, but it's like 372, 376 by Craig Bowman in Beverly 20 years ago. So I realize the girls is a different game, without the physicality and whatnot, but 400 career points, I mean, my God, that's tremendous.
It's pretty legit. I mean, I'd
quite
like
a
to know,
bit.
like, I wish we had a list of like who has 300, who has 400. I mean, I'm gonna, I'm gonna assume that, barring a disaster, wrist injury, Evie Bernard is certainly gonna get to 400
Yeah.
before she's done. I don't know what like the career scoring record is in Ipswich, for instance. I want to say maybe one of those girls in Marblehead got up to into the 300s, if not four, maybe I don't know. I mean, I wish we had a list, like
Well, the Beverly record was
you
set
or
last year, right?
well, a
Um,
single season.
and then
I'm
it
not sure
looks
about
like Jocelyn
career.
Silver is going to break that this year.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not sure about career single C. I mean, the scoring is up certainly.
Yeah.
And I like
Definitely.
I think personally that the game, has benefited from a little bit of a change in strategy. I seem to see more cuts, more passes, more assisted goals, right? I think 10 or 15 years ago, everybody was kind of playing for the free position shot, which produced a lot of goals, but not a lot of assists, right? And so I think like it's at least a prettier game to watch with the ball movement and some of the off ball movement in the attacking end. I think has made it a better game, and I think has in part led to some of these really high point totals that we're seeing now as compared to 10 or 15 years ago. I mean, because there were some great players that maybe didn't have the assist numbers. It's almost like the NBA where they were a little bit more strict about the
Yeah.
assists, in the 70s and 80s. But at the same time, even though they are less strict, I do think they are also moving the ball more, right? So it's both. But I do think to get back to my original point that having those two Peabody Beverly games both late in May is advantage Beverly because, as you mentioned, they have really high end talent in Silva and the goalie Maddie Reynolds, and then they have
Mhm.
some new faces, and they have great coaching, and so after 10, 11, 12 games, they're going to be all on the same page and ready to rock and roll. Where, as you could see, Peabody I think has 8 or 9 of their 11 starters back, so you got to imagine that had they played the second week of the season, right, that would have been advantage the experienced team. And so for Beverly to kind of have that opportunity to have both those games later, I think is potentially, something that would at least give them a better shot, than they would have had early on. But to what I've seen in the conference, those are by far our two best teams. And then I would say in the area writ large, Ipswich and Hamilton Wenham have to be right there along with them. And I think another team that flies under the radar, Phil, that you got to see,
Yeah, Fenwick.
that's some pretty decent firepower is Bishop Fenwick.
Yeah, I want to say they're like 7-1 now. They won like six in a row. Really senior laden team. I want to say 10 seniors that have all played under Coach Jill Robinson for 3 years now. A lot of firepower. It's funny when you mentioned the ball distribution. I saw a lot of that in the game that I caught against St. Mary's between Hannah Betancourt, Molly Sullivan, Junior Brianna Genzali. Kylie Bloom is another captain up front who gets it done. The defense I thought was really, really strong with Courtney McKenzie in net and some real top end defenders in front of her. So that's a team I think that could make some noise.
Yeah, they're really good. I think
Doing
they're
good
really
so
good.
far.
And Jill's a great coach. I mean, we she had success in Salem and then has really, like you said, now 3 years at Fenwick. This is kind of what they've been building to. I think they're kind of a sleeper. I think they could be really good. And hey, Swampscott's also undefeated. I think, similar to Nick's take on the Gloucester softball, right? Like the schedule hasn't quite ramped up just yet, but I mean they're undefeated and they're right there, so those will be some interesting crossover matchups when they face the Beverleys of the world too.
And I will say on the girls lacrosse scene, you guys mentioned kind of the passing that's been going on and the cutting and all that. Some of these girls are so good on the draw now, and
Mhm.
getting those possessions after goals is huge because they have an immediate advantage running upfield. I just noticed it at the Hamilton Wenham game that Evie Bernard girl, I think she won all but one draw, and they scored what 13 goals in that game, and a lot of those came right off the draw. She'd flip it into the air, grab it, feed it up to someone, and they'd be out in transition and catch you right off guard quick and score a quick one. So, yeah, I've been really impressed with some of these girls' work on the draw. As I've covered lacrosse over the years, I've definitely noticed people getting better at that, and that's so important.
I'm just going to quickly touch on the boys across, Nick. I know you talked a little bit about Manchester Essex. Um, For us, it's kind of like the talking heads thing, same as it ever was, same as it ever was. St. John's Prep undefeated. They played Bishop Girton out of New Hampshire tonight. It'll be a test, but I'm not sure they'll be tested, if that makes sense. Pingree is now, I want to say, are they 6-1 or 7-1? They lost their opener by a goal, I know, to they lost to Middlesex, 8-7 in their opener. And since then, they've won six in a row. They're really flying high over there, as you would expect. Swampscott, which reached the Final Four last year for the first time ever. I don't want to say a slow start. I mean, 3-3 now after a win yesterday over Gloucester, but they've won two straight, and for them, key was they beat Marblehead, their arch nemesis, who they for years and years and years and years not only lost but hammered by. They've now beaten them two straight years, including 8-7 last Friday night in overtime. And Liam Keeney just hit 100 career goals and 200 career points. So he's off to a good start. We do have some teams scuffling a little bit. Beverly hasn't won yet. Bishop Fenwick hasn't won yet. Fenwick's a young team. They don't have Tyler Conley. He's out for the season with an injury. Another player decided not to play. They're really young in net and on defense. So they've been, although they're putting up some goals um, with, guys like CJ Masoni, Nathan Ricciucci, and Aiden Byrne. They're scoring, but they're just not getting the defensive stops that they need. And it's similar in Beverly. They need to find a goaltender. They need somebody to step in net and kind of put this losing skid they have on the backside. They do play Danvers tomorrow, which they certainly hope is a winnable game. They're also getting scoring. Will Burgess, Talon Rafter, Connor Wallace, they're all scoring, but they're giving up those goals at the other end that are hurting them there. So looking for them to turn it around. All right. Not a super long podcast today, but we do want to do our blind ranking. So let's do this quickly. The last month plus, let's say, it's been a really good time to be a sports fan. A lot of different things going on, tournaments, big occasions, whatnot. I'd like you to blind rank these five, what do you want to call them? Just March/April sports celebrations. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So let's start with the NBA playoffs.
I'm gonna put him at two. You know I'm a hoop head.
Okay. Yeah.
There's one that I would put ahead of it that if you say it, so we'll see.
Okay. Willie.
Uh, I'll go third. I'll go third.
Okay. All right. Uh, the MIAA winter playoffs. So I'm
Oh.
thinking specifically here, the team sports where it's not individual scoring. So I'm not counting swimming, I'm not counting gymnastics, I'm not counting track, not to exclude them, but I'm talking about the
Hoop and hockey and
hoop and hockey, yeah, that kind of thing. So hoop and hockey,
MIAA. Yeah, I mean I enjoy it. I don't know what else you got on this list, but I'm gonna throw them right in the middle at three.
okay,
Yeah, it's kind of a wild card because I mean the NBA playoffs, will be going on during the spring MIA tournaments, right? So I don't know about
that's
I
true.
don't necessarily put these in the same basket, but I guess I'll go second. I mean, it's fun when we have like local teams involved and stuff. And I
Yep.
don't want to put it at four, so I guess I'll go second.
Yeah, it was hard. I needed a fifth, and I was trying to think like what could be a fifth one here. So all right, March Madness. And I guess if you wanted to include the men's or women's hockey, you could. I mean, when I think March Madness, traditionally I think of the men's and women's basketball, but feel free to throw in the hockey if you'd like.
Yeah, I'll put that
Uh,
at four. Not super interested.
I'm gonna go four as well. I love it. I think it's taken a hit in recent years with the horrible officiating. Um, And it's just not, this year in particular, there just wasn't a lot of upsets. It wasn't a super thrilling. Although the final four games were great, but the rest of the tournament was kind of So,
You're talking about the hockey, right?
yeah, yeah, the hockey. Well, I did catch some of the championship between BU and Western Michigan.
There you go.
It was a good game for a little bit, but BU was kind of chasing them and
Willie, would your pick
get
have
it
been
done.
higher had Maine not been upset and dealt a tough draw? Got to go. You're the number one seed, but you got to play in the four seeds backyard.
I don't know. I used to like it better when I was a kid. I mean, now it's changed a little bit. The coverage is a little bit different. I find it hard to watch on TV and, the different teams that are involved and stuff. It's not, I don't know. It doesn't feel the same as it did back in the day. Maybe I'm just getting old.
Fun
Okay, so
fact, I graduated with Cole Eiserman's older brother from high school. Cole Eiserman is a Newburyport kid on the BU team. I believe he was drafted. I don't know if he's going to go to the
first
NHL.
round by the Islanders, baby.
There you
20th
go.
overall.
I saw him get a goal the other night.
Yeah,
He's a pretty good player.
yeah, he's nasty. All right, the Stanley Cup playoffs.
I mean, you know where I'm going with that one.
I mean, it's a
I only
gun.
got 1 and 5 left, and it's certainly not going in my number one slot. So
Yeah.
put him at 5. With no Bruins playing this year, I probably won't be tuning into much of that.
Willie?
I think it's got to be number one. I mean, I'm assuming, kind of knowing what's coming would be my five anyway, but I think it's got to be number one. The thing I like about hockey is you get so many overtime games. Every game is close. It's like the perfect background noise, the Stanley Cup playoffs, like you just, you see that the West Coast game is in overtime at 11:45 when you're getting ready to go to bed. You just throw it on and you fall asleep. Maybe there's a goal, maybe there's not a goal. It's great for flipping around. They got every game on some app or some channel now. The games are so tight that I think it's really like much easier to flip around and watch as compared to the NBA where like, the NBA is kind of like that if you watch the last 2 minutes of like a close game, but not every game is close. So I think with the Stanley Cup playoffs, I can watch any game and get into it because it's usually close. And then, I mean, you just can't beat having the overtime on a random like Wednesday or Thursday night when you're waiting for something.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't want to, hey, everybody can make their own list. I don't want to say our younger colleague is ignorant, but hey, All right.
Playoff
And
hockey's fun. I got no gripes with it. It's not my number one sport. You won't find me tuning in too often.
last but not least, the fabled Masters in Augusta, Georgia.
I was hoping you'd list that one. That's my number one.
I
I'm a
mean,
sucker.
I'm all about the undulation. So
I'm a sucker for the Masters. It's just a special tournament, and I went there last year. I had the opportunity to go to the grounds, and that kind of put it over the top for me. So yeah, and this year was exceptional. I don't know if you guys tuned in at the end, but it was pretty exciting stuff.
Willie, I'm guessing it'll be your five only because there's not a lower number.
Yeah, I mean that's we could have WrestleMania on this list. That could have maybe supplanted the MIAA, at least as a March, April kind of event at this time. I would say maybe if they want the Masters to be exciting, they should like have people come out with chairs and go after them on the green and going into the clubhouse and stuff like that. Because otherwise, it's just a snore. It's very stuffy. Jim Nance is and it just has this egalitarian feel about it. The president of the club, Thurston Smyrnios the 10th or whatever. Like, it's just not my bag, baby.
They're
No.
a bit dramatic with it, but I don't know.
I mean, the fact that they don't allow the announcers to call the people watching fans is borderline Orwellian, I would say. That's a little bit nuts,
I can't
Yeah, it's
complain about
unique.
that.
I
Vince
mean, I don't
McMahon
know.
had a lot of ticks like that too, and I just cited WrestleMania, so
Yeah, well. All right,
local
so
medical
Nick, you
facility.
are Masters, NBA playoffs, MIA, Final Four, and Stanley Cup playoffs. Willie, you are just about the opposite. Stanley Cup playoffs, was it MIAA?
Yes, that's right.
MIAA, NBA playoffs, March Madness, and uh,
Masters.
the tradition,
Yeah.
unlike any other.
That's how I would have done it, not blind. So well done. Well done. The order in
I was
which
pretty
you
close
called
too.
those out was
Mine was
good.
pretty close.
Yeah. Well, I did hear that there was some controversy at the end, and a bunch of guys were like almost playing not to win near the end or something. Like they each had turns to chances to win and they didn't or
At the
whatnot.
Masters?
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
No, that's what I don't know. So that's why I
I
said
don't think there was anyone throwing the match or
no, no,
anything.
no, not throwing blowing. I said like
Oh
had
yeah,
a
yeah,
chance
there
to
were
sink
definitely
a putt
some.
to go ahead and they didn't, they missed or
Yeah,
whatever, that kind
yeah,
of thing. So
absolutely.
hey, I was watching our guy Shane Smith pitch against the Red Sox Sunday.
It's
That's what
pretty
I've been.
cool. He did well.
He's been doing great. Too bad his
Took
team
the L,
is,
but
like a double A team down in Birmingham, Alabama. But
yeah.
yeah, he can pitch. He's we'll have to talk about him on a later podcast.
What's he about? 24, 25?
Just turned 25. Yeah, his birthday was just a couple
Oh,
weeks ago.
nailed it.
And
Yeah, I thought he
scheduled
was.
to pitch against the Red Sox again this Saturday at Fenway.
Wow.
So
Okay.
that's pretty cool. All right, for Nick Giannino, Matt Williams, I'm Phil Stacy. Thanks for tuning into our podcast, Bandied About. You can catch us on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. You can see us out the fields. Make sure to say hi, and we'll talk to you soon.